Alright everyone, CPAC held its official straw poll, and guess who was way out in front with way more than 50% of the vote if he chooses to run? Oh, it's Donald Trump. This doesn't surprise me in the least, to be clear, and if he runs, if Trump chooses to enter the Republican primaries, basically the only thing that could stop him is a dark horse candidate. Desantis has already unequivocally said he does not intend to run, and he came in a distant second, although he wins on a second choice without Trump in it. He's already said he won't run if Trump does, so that won't be happening. By the way, if Desantis happens to switch his residency out of Florida like a year before the election, the writing will be on the wall, because he'd be a potential VP slot pick for Trump, and he is heir apparent. At the moment, if Donald Trump chooses not to run, and I'll get into a couple of reasons why that could potentially happen. If he chooses not to run, DeSantis had over 50% on the second choice section, which means that he would probably coast to the primary victory. He's well-spoken, he's relatively well-liked, especially in party. He came out smelling like a rose on COVID, which helps with independent voters potentially, especially when you've got open primary states as well. I think DeSantis would be the most likely after Trump. I think that Ted Cruz is problematic. Myself, I believe that. His statements about airplane mask rules / vaccines, I disagree with. He stabbed Rand in the back years ago on NSA spying. I would prefer Rand Paul. Rand Paul would be my primary choice if he runs. But even he, I don't think he'd run if Trump did. Trump could very well enter the primaries and everyone else exits the field. He ends up with 80-90% of the primary vote, coast to getting the nomination. This, by the way, would put so much pressure on the lame stream because their shenanigans would start to look fairly transparent, especially if he's running against someone like Biden. Now, here's one potential thing that could stop Trump. And this doesn't even have to do with him not getting in or anything. This is assuming he wants to run. One major problem is that if Biden drops out, dies in office, is incapacitated, or is removed under the 25th, the latter two, incapacitated, removed, or he's just, they say enough is enough, he's clearly demented, and get him out. The problem is that Trump will be the same age that Biden was running in this last election. That would be used as propaganda against Trump. They'd say, look, we just had a dude who was pushing 80. Enough is enough. We need fresh blood. Sorry, we can't do this. And some independent voters would definitely consider that to be meaningful. Would it sway enough Republican voters to deny Trump the primaries? The problem is that his support is so massive that all he would need is a couple of key endorsements and he runs away with it. Now, it could stop him from winning the election. If Trump gets in and Biden's not the one campaigning against him and he manages to lose, it would probably be age-related at this point. This is the one potential Achilles heel that Trump could have. Other than that, and if he's running against Kamala, it's going to be his race to lose at that point because nobody likes her, including most of the Democrats. But Trump is the front runner already for 2024. This makes sense because he's a technical incumbent. He's the prior Republican president. He's eligible for another term. He's the head honcho. He's basically in control of the majority of the party, by the way. One of the most important things Trump has managed to do is get some of the Republicans to grow balls. Right now, the Republicans a few years ago wouldn't be fighting against critical race theory. A handful of T-evangelicals would raise alarm, and the rhino cons would do absolutely nothing and say, well, maybe we need to fine-tune it a little bit, but racial justice is a good thing. And Rubio and Romney and stuff, they'll cling on maybe. Everyone else has jumped off board. You would never see a few years, certainly before Trump, at least at any time since like the 1980s, you would never have seen the Republicans essentially kick somebody out of their party for going against the populist line. Liz Cheney would be reelected forever. She'd become a perpetual incumbent. Mitt Romney, he's old as well, may not seek re-election. He'd be embattled. he might face some problems in his political career, which would be funny and very deserved because he's absolutely nuts. Car elevators ring a bell? What about horses and bayonets or killing Big Bird and all of these other binders full of women? I love how all the lowbrows that celebrate people like Liz Cheney, literally the daughter of Dick Cheney, Darth Vader 2.0, only minus the charisma, and people like Mitt Romney, they don't remember what they used to say about these people not that many years prior to Trump being the president. Trump is way out in front if he runs. Barring a dark horse that's not being considered at the moment, and I don't really see anybody like that within the Republican Party. Most of them are older, not particularly charismatic. A lot of them have no particular executive ambitions, or they have like a lifetime Senate seat. Why the fuck would they want to risk it to waste time running for the presidency when they could just back whoever runs and hope they win and then get kudos and favors and kickbacks? Typically, it's how it works. Nobody else is going to get in. DeSantis is the only person who would even stand at this point of the people recognizable as having said they have maybe an interest in running or ran last time, and so you assume that the interest is there, like Rand, Ted Cruz and stuff. None of these people can beat Trump. It's impossible. A big problem. They can't bring up his age, especially if he's running against Biden at that point. Then they definitely can't bring it up because Biden's 4 years older. Keep that in mind. You will almost certainly have a non-incumbent Democratic candidate. Kamala would only be a technical incumbent by having been appointed to the position because she had been VP. She'll have had less than a term. Nobody likes her and she can't debate her way out of a goddamn pail. I don't know who else would be on the list. Again, Joe Kennedy, arguably. Joe Kennedy, who I don't even think is quite 40 years old yet. Kennedy, no less. Now, as the moderate, I told you so Dem probably is the only one that would hold a candle to him. I think it'd be hilarious. By the way, there's nothing that the U.S. legacy media would love better than a redemption arc Grover Cleveland style for someone that they had to lambaste for. They'd love it. They'll be begging for Trump before the time is over. Even though, having Biden in office is funny because they can make ice cream references, but they're not allowed to criticize the dude even when he makes funny gaffes. He's funny, but people are laughing at him. With Trump, at least his supporters were laughing with him. That's about all. Peace out.